This video is designed to help you navigate the Folio environment in order to perform well in the Principles of Biology 1 laboratory. For each of your lab and lecture courses, you likely have a Folio page such as this that will show for each of those, with all of these tabs, news information, updates, calendar items, and content that you'll use throughout the course. We use this page extensively for the lab. For starters, if you go to the content section on this page, you will find not only basics such as the syllabus for this course, but also information about how to navigate Folio, such as viewing a quiz, setting up notifications, viewing grading rubrics, this video, and then an entire section on each exercise that we'll go through throughout the course. You find resources such as websites and reading material for each pre-lab assignment, and you'll use this material before the course each week. You find material that you use during the scheduled lab time, and resources for the post-lab assignment that you'll complete once you've met with your classmates for that week. You'll also find farther down information about the Wolbachia PowerPoint presentation that you'll be giving as part of a group project at the end of the semester. So remember this page, you'll be coming back to it a lot. If you check out the grades page, this is where you'll find the details of how you've done on each of your assignments with a basic points grade and then a brief version of any feedback on the assignment. The grades progress or class progress page is also one that I recommend that you look at as the semester progresses because it gives you some perspective on what you've completed. The assessments tab has several items that you'll use frequently. For starters, the Dropbox is a place where you'll submit actual files for assignments. And you can see that most of the post-lab assignments have a Dropbox folder. However, you will also find a quizzes section under assessments as well, and many of your post-lab assignments, such as exercise 6 post-lab, will be actual quizzes that you'll complete outside of class time. This is also where you will find all of the pre-lab quizzes that you will complete at the very beginning of each scheduled lab section. Okay. These pre-lab quizzes are not something that you have to complete before coming to class, but are something that will be completed right at the beginning. You do, however, have to have the material in the lab manual completed before you come to the lab section. Also under the Assessments tab, you'll find Rubrics. Rubrics are a guide for exactly what the professor is expecting you to do on a particular assignment. So this is something that you need to review along with the basic instructions for the assignment before you submit it. So if we take a look at the preview of the rubric for part of the post-lab for exercise 2, you'll find that one of the items, for example, is discussing the feminization phenotype for Wolbachia infections in insects. A full 2 out of 2 points is given for properly describing the phenotype itself, for example. You'll find much more complex rubrics as you move throughout the semester, such as the one for the presentation itself, and this goes through in extensive detail what we're expecting to find in your assignment. If you go through each of these rubrics before submitting the assignment, you're generally going to do very well. The communication section has the class list showing all of your fellow students, as well as the news section and your email. Just be aware that many professors prefer that you contact them directly using their Georgia Southern emails. The calendar I recommend going to as well, as it shows you any due dates that your professor has set for these assignments. For example, you can see clearly that exercise 1 has an activity that is due on the 16th. That's actually something that we'll do in class. All right, so that was an overview of where all of the basics are. You will also need to review material after the fact. For example, your professors are going to be grading your quizzes that you've completed. So how you'll view that feedback is going to depend on what type of assignment it was. If it was an assignment that's a quiz, then you'll be able to go in afterward and view which questions you got right and wrong and what the professor's feedback was. To do that, you'll go to the quiz itself, use the drop-down arrow and view submissions, and then you'll have a list of submissions. For example, if I go and view this practice attempt or exercise 4B post lab, you can click on attempt number 1, and then I'll be able to view the answers for this assignment, and this should pop up automatically for you. You can see that my score for question number 1 is 0 out of 2 points. However, this was a short answer question and the professor simply hasn't graded it yet. So there is feedback here about the correct answer to the question, but there isn't a score. So simply be aware of the fact that there may be a slight delay between you completing a quiz assignment and your professor actually grading it. However, this feedback is essential to finding out why you got a question incorrect. In question number 2, you can see I scored 1 out of the 2 possible points. In this case, several answers were required to be checked in order to get the question correct, but the other 2 answers needed to not be checked. Okay? So in this case, I answered 50% of the time correctly, 50% of the time incorrectly. Most of the time, multiple choice questions are much more straightforward and you're simply answering one of the various options. Viewing scores and feedback on an assignment that has a graded rubric is very similar. You simply go to the drop box and you'll then be able to view how many files you've submitted for a particular assignment and then select those assignments or use the arrow to view submissions, and then you'll have a copy of the rubric again with how well you've performed. To wrap up, I'd like to review some specifics about how pre-lab and post-lab assignments work for this course. So if I view the syllabus for my section of the course, one thing you'll note is if you look at the grading section, there is a pre-lab assignment and quiz that's worth 0% of your grade. In reality, this is not worth 0% of your grade because there's actually a penalty if you do not come prepared to lab. So what you'll find is that each pre-lab assignment is actually worth 2% of your grade. If we scale that up to 11 labs throughout the semester, then in reality, pre-lab assignments are actually worth about 22% of your grade. You'll see that that's comparable to almost the full value of all of your post-lab assignments. So that actually brings us to a quick reminder about how grades work, which is as a percentage. If you imagine for a moment an 8-point assignment in which you scored 7 out of 8 points, then you actually got an 87.5% on that assignment. So we multiply this times 100, you'll see 87.5% is what you actually scored. If you look at this overall for your grades in the 1107 lab, you'll find that 55% of your overall grade is things that you're doing as a performance there in the moment. 45% of that grade is the practical exams, 10% is your active participation there in the course. The other 45% of your grade is actually material that you are preparing for and taking time working on outside of class. So it's prepared as opposed to a performance. Your post-lab assignments, you'll have 3 days, 72 hours after the end of your lab to complete these assignments and turn them in. Your Wolbachia presentation, you're actually going to be working on throughout the semester. So 45% of your grade plus that 22 or so percent of your grade that's essentially the pre-lab assignment is all things that you can prepare for outside of class. The practical and the participation or discussion grade are the only things that are very active and right there in the moment. So if you're looking for the too long didn't read portion of this video, 1, pre-lab assignments are essential to doing well in this course. Not coming in prepared to lab will harm your grade at the end of the semester. 2, the Assessments tab with drop boxes and quizzes is where you'll find the instructions and rubrics and submission locations for all of the post-lab assignments for this course. Last, don't ever forget about your Wolbachia presentation. The rubric for this and all of the resources in the content section are available to you throughout the semester, so you can be using this material to your advantage as you prepare with your lab partner and move through the semester. Hopefully this video has been helpful, and you can always contact myself or your professor if you have any questions.